Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm pleased to have with us Brian Sanderson, join the Rotary Club Zoom meeting today. And before everybody joined in, we learned a little bit about him on the side. He is local to Vermont. He's related to the Sandersons in Ludlow. And I believe he said he was District 3 project manager?
Yes, that's correct.
Which is Rutland County, but includes Ludlow. So we're going to hear a little information from Brian about projects going on and a little time for questions and answers. Brian. And if you want, Brian said you might have to turn his screen off. So if he disappears, that's fine.
Yeah, hello everybody, and thank you very much for having me here today. I am going to put myself on no video because my Wi-Fi signal is all over the place, and sometimes I may freeze up and get kicked off and have a hard time coming on. So I am going to go off video for right now, but if anybody wants to speak to me face to face, you can just say, please, show video again. So I am the District 3 project manager. I supervise a technical team of 3 people. We help with district culvert installs, slope issues, erosion issues. We also aid the 31 towns in our district, mostly being Rutland County, some being outside of our county, such as Ludlow, Goshen, and we have a town in Addison County. And we assist them with technical assistance. We give them advice on repairs to roads, right-of-way measurements, issues with roads, reclassification, and more importantly, I administer the town highway structures and Class 2 grant programs, which, depending on a given fiscal year, unfortunately not this COVID pandemic one, but we usually have about $3 million to dole out to towns that apply for these different grants. So we do a lot for the district, but we do a lot for our towns, and I really thoroughly enjoy serving the towns. My dad grew up in Shrewsbury, Vermont, along with Carol Sanderson, who now is a resident of Ludlow, who's my uncle. And I've been around Vermont all my life and have special ties to it. So I'm excited for you to invite me here, and thank you so much. Is there any questions? Does anybody have any burning questions they'd like to ask?
Scott, go ahead.
Okay, called on? I just go. Brian, hey, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate you joining us today as a Rotarian, but we also appreciate all the work you assist the town of Ludlow with in all that you do. What's your speculation as far as funding for the upcoming highway and bridges and better roads grants for the upcoming year? I know it's been pushed back on a quarterly basis till the legislature gets back in there. But what's your gut feeling on that, on the amount of funding, if anything, coming through this year?
Gut feeling, and I can't speak for the Better Roads program because even though that's a grant program, that's administered through a different group than myself. My gut feeling is that there's probably going to be no grants awarded this year. I sent out a little blurb to the towns, and you may have gotten it not too long ago, that the T-bill right now is only be advanced several months at a time. And until there's a fully funded yearly T-bill, it looks like the grant program may be on hold. I don't think there's going to be grants awarded this year, and I've had a lot of towns who said it wouldn't bother them. There's a lot of towns that can't get work done right now that are so far behind, or that their financial situation is such that what they may have had set aside for a local match may now be gone due to this COVID pandemic. So my opinion, let's take a year off. We don't know what this pandemic's going to do again here in the fall and the winter. We don't know which way this COVID thing is going, but it's too late in the season right now for me to, I think, that anyone should even consider trying to, to process a grant. And I'm also reaching out to our grants people to see that if they could come out with a blanket, basically contract extension for any grants that were set to expire of 12/31 of this year, to hopefully see if they can be, advanced to next year, 12/31 of 21, knowing that I've had so many towns now that this year they can't get work done because they can't get certain structures made, or places are shut down, or contractors are hard to find. So in my mind, and a lot of towns agree, let's take a year off and let's really deal with this pandemic first and get our hands on what it's doing to us. It's unfortunate, but nobody's in a good financial situation right now.
Anyone else? Bridget?
Are you finding it hard to get the supplies you need to do the projects?
Not district-wide. We just don't have the funding to do it. We are on such a limited, how do I want to say this, construction-based financial situation that we're just kind of doing back to basics. We're doing what we can in-house without having to buy supplies because we don't have any money. So in our case, it's not hard for us to get the supplies, but for some of my towns who have, like, I have a town that was supposed to purchase a precast box concrete culvert and have that put in by the end of the year. That was on hold because the business shut down, and now they're so far behind that they can't get caught up. So some towns are having a problem getting the supplies. Some towns and the state just don't have the money to do the work, and we can't go out and buy more things at this point in time.
Thank you.
Sharon?
Brian, I'm Sharon Bixby. I'm on the regional TAC representing Ludlow. And I complimented our town, Ludlow, at our last TAC meeting because now Scott gets up and, oh, Mark's leaving. But Scott, you're there, so you can hear this. They recently dug out the drainage ditches along the sides of Freedom Hill Road where I live. And, you know, on some of the steeper slopes, they installed the stone like they're supposed to. And I just wondered how, on a whole, is that working better to improve the quality of the water flow back into the ground? Or, I mean, I think it's a good thing. It looks very nice. And it's supposed to help with the drainage, so we're not going to back up our culverts at the driveways, as I understand it. So has that been a good suggestion?
Yeah, and it's been more than a suggestion. It was actually, you know, it made into law, the Act 64. We need to really start looking at, most importantly, our waterways and protecting our waterways, but these practices in doing so and really controlling the amount of sediment we get from storm events has been saving roads and saving maintenance on ditches. I think it's a fantastic thing, and a lot of towns are now taking, you know, that standard for their hydrologically connected roads, and they're applying that to every single road, and that's the way it should be. I mean, who wants to go out and visit a site on a road that washes out continually 5 or 6 times a year? You know, that's a lot of money the town's spending for maintenance, mobilization, to keep putting material down. If you do it right and do it to the standard, and you visit that road once every 4 years, it's already paid for itself. And I'd like to commend Mr.
Good.
Tarbo. Ron is one of my more proactive road foremen, and he reaches out to me constantly for advice and for guidance. And I think that's fantastic, and that's exactly what I'm here for.
Good, that's great.
So Brian, I have a question. I think I saw the state trucks out last week, and it looked like they were spraying along Route 100. Is that spraying for the knotweed, or what are they doing for that?
Well, there is a very limited pesticide, herbicide spraying program this year. We usually are a little bit more heavily involved in how we spray. It's for just treating our guardrails. It's for weed controls in areas where we can't mow. You know, obviously not near waterways and near people's wells. They have been trying to limit it and focus on some of the real troublesome areas this year, but even our roadside mowing was cut back tremendously. And you know, we usually contract that out statewide for all of the state routes. And this year they've been really only focusing on our limited access road, which is US 4 from Rutland to Fairhaven, and, you know, Route 7. So it's a difficult year for everybody. And I know there's been lots of complaints about high brush, and, you know, I hate to say the phrase, it is what it is, but when you don't have money to do things, you can only do so much with the personnel and the stuff you have, the equipment you have in hand.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bridget? Oh, no, Scott, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
Bridget, go ahead.
Well, so my question is, do you try and do knotweed or other invasive species eradication? Because it's really a problem.
It is a problem, and it's, I mean, it's no more of a problem, well, than poison ivy, which is a major problem too. So we don't necessarily try to target one species in particular. We try to target a bunch of them. It's our environmental group up north out of Berlin that really administers the pesticide program and our hazardous materials program. So they basically try to get one, I don't want to use the term super, but one quote unquote super pesticide herbicide that takes care of the majority of those weeds. And as you know, there is no great way to take care of the knotweed. There is no great way to take care of the wild parsnip. There is no great way to take care of the poison ivy, the purple loosestrife. You know, these are all invasives that are here, and to actually take the actions that you need to eradicate the species, or at least get it at bay, is just not, it's not economically or time constraint feasible. You know, there's only certain times you can harvest it, and you can't spread the seeds, and you got to bag each plant. So environmentally, we're seeing a lot of bad stuff on our roads that we're just trying to keep it back. But I think we're fighting a losing battle, but we just got to make sure we keep our shoulders open. So in case something decides to dart out in front of a motorist, they at least have a chance to react. You know, we're just trying to protect the traveling public at this point. Right. But we're still trying to focus environmentally on what we can do for these invasives.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, go ahead. Scott?
Yeah, no, I was just unmuting myself. Maybe you can update me on the outside vendor that you guys hired for the class 2 striping and painting.
I'm sorry, I'm having a real difficult time hearing what you said. You're very, very low and kind of muted.
Okay, how about this? How about the painting, the vendors, the outside vendors you guys hire? Any idea when they'll be coming through around here?
Good question. No, we don't. Mark McIntosh is our regional construction engineer. He's in charge of the statewide painting contract, and I believe there's 2 contractors that are doing the painting for the state. One for the northern half, one for the southern half. Responsible for all the class 2 center lines. And unfortunately, we don't know. I don't get a grasp of where they are, neither does the construction engineer, because depending on weather, they may have to pull out of a certain area and jump to another spot. This has always been a bane for towns. It's always been a bane for myself, trying to coordinate painting with towns that are doing work on roads. And it seems, you know, more often than not, we go in and paint a road prior to a town resurfacing it, and then we have to head back out there again. So it'd be nice to refine this process and make it a lot more accurate. Unfortunately, statute says we're just responsible for painting them each year. So I don't know if that would mean if we went out and painted in the town, paved over it, that the town's responsible. There's still a lot of details we're trying to work out with this until we can get maybe more contractors on board and maybe have 4 for the whole state rather than 2.
It seems like it made more sense.
Mark, go ahead. You're muted.
Brian, thanks for being here. This is Mark Huntley, and I had a question kind of in regards to how, well, maybe in your district or statewide, how has this challenge with COVID affected your 2020 projects in general?
It's greatly affected them. We pretty much have put all of our major projects that we had on hold. Like I said, we are focusing now on back to basics, you know, brush cutting by hand, a lot of tree cutting, things that we can do in-house with staff already without having to purchase an excess of materials and, you know, and equipment mobilization. It's even been more so challenging because, you know, our garage staff are working at the garages, but all of our the office staff, we're all working from home, and, you know, we could be here for quite a while. We've been pretty much told that between the salt usage last year for the storm and how much we were behind coming into this one, and then with the COVID thing, that there may be 2 to 3 years of just basically back to basics, which isn't a bad thing. Because if you neglect the routine maintenance, the preventative maintenance every now and then everything you do after that becomes reactive. So I think a couple of years of us doing, you know, some of the small stuff that we should have been doing all along, I think it'll greatly improve how we can move forward with construction projects.
Does VTran I mean, as far as safety and whatever, masking and distance and all that, is that been a challenge for you, a problem for to try to either monitor that or make sure that everybody has the proper equipment if needed?
Well, so we had a specific task force set up when this whole COVID thing started, and we started setting up our incident command center specifically for this. So getting supplies at first was kind of challenging because, as you know, everybody had hard time getting them. As far as the enforcement, we basically took the guidelines set forth by the government and the Vermont Department of Health, and we just even made them a little bit more stricter for us. I mean, up until last week, if we were within 100 feet of somebody else, we still had to have a mask on. And yes, that made it difficult for us, you know. Now as long as we're more than 6 feet away, we can take the mask off. We only are allowing 2 people in a vehicle at a time, so now we're allowing 3. So it definitely posed challenges at first, but I think people realize the severity of the situation we're in, and that it really is not a joking matter. So here at the agency, you know, we always take safety pretty seriously, and our safety section did a great job in making sure we were following the guidelines set forth by not only the governor, but by the Secretary of Transportation.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I think that's about it. Any closing statements, Brian, that you want to make before you say goodbye to us all? We certainly appreciate you coming.
I certainly appreciate the offer, and you know, if you'd ever like me to participate in future ones, as long as I'm available, I'd be more than happy to. I don't think I'm going to be able to give you many updates in the next couple of months. We're going to have to see how this pandemic plays out. I just hope everyone, you know, stays safe. More importantly, stays sane. And you know, and as Scott knows, I'm here. Anybody needs a question asked, you know, get Scott and get in contact with me, because you know, serving my towns is one of the greatest things that I enjoy about my job. So I appreciate you having me here. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.